I've never seen my dog terrified. Not until that night, deep in the Appalachians. I'd been planning the trip for weeks. Life had felt too loud for too long, and I needed a break before I burned out completely. So when I finally got a long weekend free, I packed the truck, grabbed my dog Riley, and drove straight into the Appalachian woods. I wasn't looking for a marked trail or a crowded campground. I wanted real quiet. The kind you only find where GPS loses signal. Riley loves the woods more than anyone I know. He's a shepherd mix with enough confidence for both of us. He never hesitates, never acts skittish. He's chased off bigger animals than he probably should have. I've always trusted him out there. Honestly, it's the only reason I felt comfortable camping so deep in the mountains alone. The drive itself told me how isolated I'd be. The road narrowed bit by bit until branches scraped the sides of the truck, and the gravel thinned out to almost nothing. The sun was still out, but the trees were so dense that it looked like early evening underneath them. Appalachian forest light is strange. It gets swallowed before it hits the ground. I passed a small creek and finally found a flat clearing about 50 yards off the old fire road. No sign of people, no trash, no footprints, nothing to suggest anyone had camped there in a long time. Perfect, I thought. Riley jumped out before I even turned off the ignition. He did his usual perimeter check, nose to the ground, tail up, ears twitching. Everything seemed normal. I set up the tent, started gathering wood, and listened to the quiet settle in. Appalachian quiet isn't like anywhere else. It's not empty, it's thick. It feels like the entire forest is holding its breath. As the sun dipped behind the ridge, the temperature dropped fast. The shadows stretched out like they were crawling up from the forest floor. By the time I got the fire going, the woods around us felt twice as dark. The kind that makes you lower your voice without knowing why. Riley lay beside me, head on his paws, watching the tree line like he always does, calm, relaxed. A couple of times he lifted his head as if he heard something. In the woods, there are always animals moving around. Nothing unusual. We ate, sat by the fire, listened to the crickets and the occasional barred owl. Everything felt peaceful, maybe too peaceful, looking back on it. Eventually I crawled into the tent. The fire outside was still glowing, just enough to cast a faint orange light through the tent fabric. I zipped the door, lay down, and Riley curled up against me. I fell asleep almost instantly. I don't know how long I slept before waking up, but when I did, it wasn't gradual. It felt like something snapped me awake, like my body knew something my brain hadn't caught up with yet. The first thing I noticed was that Riley wasn't next to me. The second was that he was standing at the tent door. And the third was the silence. The kind of silence that feels deliberate. The fire outside had burned down, but not out, so I could still see him in the dim glow. His back was arched, fur raised along his spine, and he was leaning forward slightly, muscles tense, staring at the closed door like he was waiting for it to move. I whispered his name quietly, thinking maybe he heard a deer or a fox. He didn't turn. He didn't flick an ear. He didn't acknowledge me at all. That's when my stomach dropped. I pushed myself up slowly, trying not to make noise, and held my breath. At first, I didn't hear anything except Riley's shaky breathing. Then it came, faint but unmistakable. A step. Leaves shifted under something slow moving. Whatever it wasn't running. It wasn't wandering. It was placing its weight carefully, like it knew exactly where we were. Riley let out a low growl, the kind he reserves only for real danger. A deep rumble that vibrated the entire tent floor. Another step, closer this time. I reached for my flashlight, trying not to shake. My fingers brushed it, and as soon as I clicked it on, the beam lit the tent fabric from the inside. That's when I saw it. The outline of something, tall enough to distort the fabric, standing close enough that the material bent inward slightly, just enough to show where it was pressing against it. Riley lunged at it so violently the tent shook. I grabbed him by the harness, but he threw his full strength against the wall. Outside, the leaves exploded with movement. Something stepped back, fast, like it hadn't expected him to attack. I killed the flashlight. I didn't want to see the shadow again. For a long moment, everything was quiet. Too quiet. Even the insects had stopped. Then the steps started again, moving slowly around the tent, circling us. Riley tracked every sound, growling, trembling, pressing forward like he was ready to tear through the fabric if the thing got any closer. I couldn't breathe right. My chest felt tight, and every instinct in me was screaming to get out of the tent. I grabbed the zipper, yanked it down, and pushed Riley out first. The cold Appalachian air hit my face like a slap. The fire was nearly dead, just faint embers, but my flashlight cut through the darkness enough to see the clearing. Nobody, no movement, just the tree line, dense and black. But Riley wasn't fooled. He planted himself between me and the woods, body rigid, hackles up, staring at one exact spot, like something was standing just outside the reach of the light. I dropped to my knees at the fire pit and started rebuilding it as fast as my shaking hands allowed. I threw small branches on first, then larger pieces, until the flames grew big enough to push back some of the darkness. Riley stayed right in front of me, refusing to sit, refusing to look away from the same patch of woods. We stayed that way for hours. Every now and then, Riley's growl returned, low and tense. A few times, I thought I heard movement deeper in the trees, but I never saw anything clearly. I was never so terrified in my life. There's a point in the night where time stops feeling real. The fire crackled, Riley paced and circled protectively, and the woods stayed silent except for distant creaks and snaps that didn't sound like branches falling naturally. I didn't dare go back into the tent. Riley wouldn't have let me anyway. When dawn finally showed up, it felt unreal, like the sun shouldn't have been able to reach us in a place that dark. The first bit of light made Riley's posture change. His tail came up slightly. The tension in his shoulders eased. He still refused to turn his back on the woods, but at least he wasn't trembling. I packed fast. I shoved everything into the truck, shaking the whole time. Riley jumped in the moment the door opened. On the drive back, he stayed upright, leaning against me, staring out the back window every few minutes as if making sure nothing followed us. He didn't settle until we were completely out of the mountains. And even then, when we got home, he acted different. More alert at night, more reactive to small sounds, more interested in the dark corners of the yard. Whatever was out there, he remembers it. And I do too every time I think about how close it was. Just a few inches of tent fabric between us, and something that moved like it knew exactly where we were. I've camped in a lot of places, But I won't camp in that part of the Appalachians again. Not with Riley acting like that. Not after seeing my dog, who never fears anything, look absolutely terrified of the dark. Thanks for watching No Sleep Tonight. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It truly helps this channel grow and keep these horrors coming. I'll see you in the next video. And until then, sleep well.